Good evening and welcome to HIP, KBDI's exploration into arts, music, and culture. I'm Roman. Tonight on HIP, our feature is with Janis Ian, a teenage 60s icon who made it big with the song Society's Child. It was a revolutionary song that rocked the nation because it dealt with the trials and tribulations of an interracial relationship. Ian talks with HIP correspondent Shari Bernson before her performance at the Bluebird Theatre. Art correspondent Joshua Hassel is with Bill Stockman in his studio getting ready for a show he's going to have at the Ruhl Gallery. Stockman's dark, moody, and very large paintings are part of a show entitled The Phenomenology of Birds. Later this evening, you'll get a chance to get your hands on a 50th anniversary program for the Cannes Film Festival celebrating its anniversary this year. So stick around for this fun-filled edition of HIP.
Welcome to Acoustic Film.
We're here with Janis Ian at the Bluebird Theatre. She's on tour currently. Her last release is Revenge, but the tour's supporting a brand new album that's coming out this year. You just want to give us some background, Janis, the last couple of years?
We put Revenge out early last year. It's a great band, Steve Gadd and Willie Weeks and Matt Rawlings and people like that. I wanted to do a real band album. And having done that, I'm switching labels. I'm going over to High Street, and I'm going into the studio with Craig Street, who's, I guess, best known for his work with Cassandra Wilson, although now he's just on the new K.D. Lang album, so it's getting a little crowded in there. I'm doing this tour to warm up for the album, and then I have a 3-day turnaround next week, and then we're in the studio. Be out in August.
When you were 14,
I was 14, I wrote Society's Child, and then when I was 15, I recorded it, and it became a hit about 8 months later.
and then they kind of tagged you as a militant.
Militant protest singer, yeah, Protest 101.
The new Bob Dylan.
Yeah, that's a big handle to carry.
Tonight I will swallow your courage. Tonight you will feast on my heart. This night every soul will be savaged, and we'll tear this world apart. I'm ready for the war. I'm ready for the heat. Why don't you choose your battleground now? Why don't we just do it in the street?
I started writing when I was 12. I started having hits when I was 15, so
amazing.
It's weird to me too. And now, in retrospect, it was good for me, you know, but you don't learn a lot while you're on tour. It's not conducive to education of any sort, emotional either. If you're in a relationship, it sort of stays wherever it is because no one has to deal with anything. And if you're trying to learn something, you're always too tired. So it's good to stop occasionally, and I stopped then for 3 years, and then after 17 was a hit, and I had a bunch of hits overseas, I stopped for 8 years, 10 years.
Hey Jesse, I'm lonely. Come home.
You know, people assume with a singer-songwriter that if you're not out in public, then that means that you're not working. I mean, the work goes on. It's just, it's good for me as a writer that I've done a good enough job that people don't think I wrote Jesse. They think Roberta Flack wrote it, or they think that Bette Midler wrote Some People's Lives. You know, that's good. But on the other hand, they also assume that if I'm not recording, I'm not working. They don't understand that my work starts with the song.
They say you are foolish for wanting the sun. They call you selfish for learning to run. And they'll tell you that the darkness is a blessing in disguise.
What was it that threw you into the limelight, so to speak?
Well, I hungered for it. I mean, I was never thrown. It was more clambering over bodies till I could get
You
to
fought your way there?
Yes, sure did. I think that's always true. You know, I don't think anybody accidentally has, quote, fame thrust upon them. I mean, unless you're a hero, like you save somebody's life, you know, which we don't do. I mean, we're not doing brain surgery, we're doing music. You know, it's great, but it's not heroic in that sense. I wanted to be really famous, like a Beatle. And then when I figured out that people were listening to my songs, I wanted to be a great songwriter.
Some waiting by the doorway, I will not linger long. I'll leave you by
What's it been like being a woman in the business, being an activist woman, being out now, being a gay woman in the business? Is it changed? Is it getting easier?
Yeah, it's changed enormously. I mean, if I think about when I started, it's what, 64, 65? I was 14, yeah, so 65. I remember just pitched battles over whether I could wear pants on TV.
You're kidding?
Oh, major. I wasn't allowed to wear them till the late 60s. Joplin broke that ground. She just said, so fine, I won't do the shows. You know, but no, you weren't allowed to wear pants. Always getting to a gig and finding a stool. The assumption that women play seated, you know, that women are static. That's all changed.
This train still runs, though the baggage weighs a ton, we carry on. Ain't nothing is forever young. We're not done. This train still runs.
So what about now? Is it tough now being this age, or that's irrelevant at this point?
No, it's weird, sure. I mean, I woke up about 10 years ago and I wasn't the youngest anymore. You know, I'd always been the youngest. I mean, when I was hanging out with Janis and them, I was always 6, 10 years younger than everybody. And then all of a sudden I was 35 and Melissa Etheridge was saying, God, you know, my mother listened to you, and it was, well, great. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It's strange being older. It's, the 40s are strange. I don't know that they're bad or good, but they're strange.
Ain't no one is forever young. We're not done. This train still runs.
What's the future?
I'm a
Is that too
sponge.
much of a quintessential interview question? What next? What now?
That's a good question, though.
But really, you've kind of been there, seen it, done it, and
That's
in a
weird,
way,
isn't it?
sometimes, in one way, the times have kind of caught up with you, I think.
Well, I'd like to think that. That would be great if I was finally in time with the times. That would be amazing, as opposed to always running ahead or behind. What am I doing? I'm going to make this record. I'm going to spend the summer actually spending some time with my partner who's in law school. Record comes out in August. I perform around the world until January, and then in theory I'm going to take 6 months off and write a book. So we'll see. That's sort of something I've been trying to avoid since I was a kid.
Writing a book? So it's been there with you since you were a kid?
Well, I've always turned down I mean, I get autobiography offers when you're 15. It's stupid.
Wow.
You know, what are you going to talk about? My view of the crib? But then the more people that I meet now, the more I realize that there's 3 generations now that I've been through in music, and it's amazing who I've worked with. I mean, it's kind of stunning even to me, you know? So that might be fun to write about that.
Gary Davis, Furry Lewis, Sippy Wallace, Robert Johnson, they were laying at the pool. Charlie Christian, Lightning Hopkins, Libby Cotton, Muddy Waters, and his children too. In between the lotion and chlorine, Jimi Hendrix played a big old D18. We all joined in as he began to scream, welcome to Acousticville.
Is there a title for the new album?
Yeah, welcome to Acousticville.
Is there a title for the new book?
No, probably Against My Better Judgment or something like that. I was thinking about calling it Essays from New Jersey. You know, I like the idea of Essays from New Jersey. That's where I'm from. I figure no matter where you live, if you're from New Jersey, you're still always from New Jersey.
Any last words, last thoughts, last feelings?
Duh. I'm a lot dumber than I look.
And a lot more modest, too, if I may add.
I wish.
Well, thanks, Janis Ian. Thanks
Thanks,
for
Sharon.
joining us here on HIP at the Bluebird. See you next time.
Cool, ladies.
Right in front of this. Right there, throw it right in front of it.
In the last few years, 31-year-old William Stockman has emerged as a major figure in Denver's contemporary art scene. Last year, the Denver Art Museum purchased one of his original large oil paintings for their permanent collection. We're here in William Stockman's studio with William, and we're looking at his paintings for the show that opens tomorrow night. Bill, these paintings seem to have a reoccurring imagery of birds in them.
Yeah, the bird is a common motif that I use often in my work. This show is dedicated almost exclusively to images of birds, and I've been interested in birds for quite a long time. I raise birds as pets and keep flying pigeons in the yard. But the birds this time around are common to all of these paintings. So
these works also look like a departure. Your work is often known for its figurative, human figures. Why have you departed from using the figure?
Well, this show began as a landscape show, and I just couldn't seem to sustain my interest in painting sort of straight-ahead landscapes. But the figures were dropped out because I was interested in concentrating more on sort of the backdrops. But as I began this work, I once again started to add a narrative element instead of using figures. I often supplanted those figures with pets and with birds.
Yeah, the paintings are new, but they look antique. They have this varnished look to them. What's going on?
Well, 19th century American landscape painting is a big influence in my work. So I try to emulate the look of a 19th century landscape. So they are atmospheric and dark and murky, almost as if they were an old painting with a sort of an aged varnished. That's just an aesthetic that I have a particular affinity for.
How do you get this effect? They sort of look like they're not, I don't always see brush strokes. It looks...
Well, the paintings are, I do use the brush strokes, and that often comes at the end of the painting. When I lay down the background, a lot of that is done by applying paint with a brush and then removing it with the rag. So the paintings are actually sort of burnished. I'll paint the whole painting with, say, a burnt umber and obliterate the entire image, and then rub it down as it were to remove paint. And some of that stays in the grain, and it makes the paintings sort of dark and atmospheric.
Your paintings are oil on canvas, and they're large. Why do you work so large?
Well, that's a good question. I grapple with that all the time. It would be much simpler to paint smaller paintings. I think that there are many reasons. I think that I began working large because when I, say, paint a figure, I like to paint that figure to scale. So I like to paint the person, the size of the person, or like a dog, the size of a dog. And that requires a certain scale if you want to have a full view of the figure or the subject. And not all of these paintings, very few of them actually have figures in them anymore, although my work still remains large. And that's also because I really want to accomplish a sense of space, of a large space. There's sort of expansive views, and so the very large scale just lends itself to that.
Now, not all your work is large. Some things are actually miniatures. And you've got a group of miniatures that you're going to be showing in a book format along with these paintings. Can you tell us what's going on? Some of these are pieces that you've chosen that are your favorites?
Yeah, and it's interesting because the miniatures, the way that they evolve is quite different than the large paintings, because they're so small, the scale lends themselves to just a sort of spontaneous evolution. The large paintings involve a much more methodical way of working that involves references and research of images. The small miniatures, they evolve sort of spontaneously like a drawing. And I do, for some reason, I'm comfortable working with a very, very small scale, say 3 by 3 inches or 4 by 4 inches. I guess because there's this sort of, it's a contrivance, the scale. There's no way, obviously, that I could paint something like a figure, the size of a figure, in something that's 4 by 4 inches. So with that sort of removed, it's easier for me to work. I don't seem to work well with a medium size, where I say have to crop the figure, but with very, very small paintings I seem to do well with, very, very small and very large. And you're right, in this show there will be some new miniatures, and I am publishing a book of these miniatures that hopefully should be available at the opening.
Well, thanks. It's been nice being here with
Sure.
you.
Sure.
This is Joshua Hassel. Thank you for joining me.